the Ubud. The whole world is paying attention to all of the activity we've got going on here. See, now I don't see the...
Gary, you mind if I make a quick announcement while you're doing this?
Yeah, please.
We launched formally the Coin Academy website yesterday, so if you haven't checked that out, go check it out. And the big difference between the site today and where it was the day before yesterday is the original course materials are up online now. So before it was just the curated collections. Now 3 of the original courses are up there, including Bitcoin for Merchants, which is where all that came from. A Bitcoin for everyone, and a really extensive discussion of how to get ready to start dealing with digital currency, how to set up 2-factor authentication, how to encrypt your hard drive, how to set up mobile security, and all that sort of stuff. So it's all on coinacademy.co. It's free. Tell us what you think. We had a great day yesterday. We did 500 unique visitors and almost 1,400 pages served in 24 hours. It was amazing. Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're. Yeah, that's really great. Fantastic news for you guys.
Cool.
I've got a tab where we can. Well, I can show them exactly what you're talking about in just a moment here.
No worries.
So, all right. So that's volatility. With that, we're going to move into the next segment. This is the what do we call it? Bitcoin number of the week. Take it away, Will.
Okay. The Bitcoin number of this week is number 7. And does anyone know what number 7 represents this week?
It's the number of days since the last Bitcoin filter meeting.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the last number.
I thought it might have been the girls you dated in college.
Yeah, it was a little lower than that, but it's close.
It's in fact, it's actually the transactional limit on Bitcoin. It can only do globally 7 transactions per second, and this came up in discussion on the Facebook group. And the reason for it is that there is every 10 minutes when we dock another block onto the blockchain, there's a 1 megabyte limit. And when you work that out in number of transactions you have every 10 minutes, it turns up to be 7. So if you compare, if we flick over to the next slide and scroll down a bit. So I've just put up a comparison between Bitcoin peak versus the average of PayPal, which is 46 per second, and what Visa is averaging every second currently, which is, what is that number? It's like it's 2,000 transactions per second going through Visa at any one moment, and
it's a lot of consumerism.
Yeah, well, it's all internet trading. It's quite a lot. So yeah, it's, you know, Bitcoin's on track to exceed Visa credit card transactions in 6 years. So there's a bit of work to be done with the software behind it. There's no real technical limits why it can't be expanded. Well, there are trade-offs which I won't go into, but yeah. So there's, you know, the Bitcoin software we're operating on today will not be the same as what will be in 6 years, assuming it continues to climb. And we'll just scroll down a bit, and I'll show you what the peak Visa rate is. That's 47,000. So
47,000 transactions per second.
Per second. So yeah, Bitcoin doesn't even register, nor does PayPal. Long way to go, and it kind of shows if we maintain the track of growth currently, yeah, it's quite a lot of growth to come.
Well, and also Visa is on a closed network, right? So they don't have the same denial of service concerns, presumably.
Yeah, true.
So, you know, who knows, in the future someone could try to clog the Bitcoin network with far more traffic per second.
And apparently, what is it, 2010, someone did. They had a bunch of Bitcoin, it wasn't worth a lot, and they they fired all this dust across all these
Bitcoin
wallets.
dust, like
And it
really
was-
small amounts of Bitcoin.
Yeah, tiny, fractions of a penny back then, a micro penny maybe.
But Bitcoin survived.
It survived, but yeah.
Okay.
How does Litecoin compare? Do you know?
Haven't checked it.
That's a good question because Litecoin was an answer. It was supposed to be silver to Bitcoin's gold, right? And more transaction throughput, but I don't know the numbers.
What's a brief little, how did you come up with this? What is the technical background of this? Is it?
Well, every transaction on the that goes onto the blockchain is it takes a certain amount of bytes. If you get the transaction, you crunch it down with a hash, and you dock it, right? You dock it, you dock it, you dock it. So there's every 10 minutes is a block, right? And the way Bitcoin works is that you dock all these transactions together. They're all hashed together, and every miner on the network has to find this sort of lotto ticket, and that's called like proof of work. It's like these are all the transactions, and I'm going to find this needle in the haystack, and if I can find that needle, I've got the winning lotto ticket. I get the prize, and it docks to the blockchain. That block is under the software is technically limited to 1 megabyte per block, which is every 10 minutes. So if we made it bigger, then the blockchain size would be really big. It's already 22 gigabytes, probably bigger already, and that becomes unwieldy when you need to download it all to do some tricky stuff.
Yeah. Well, the danger is centralization. If the blockchain becomes terabytes large, then people won't be able to run their own Bitcoin node, and we'll be right back to the centralized nature of the current system. And the whole invention of Bitcoin was designed to decentralize all of our banking infrastructure. So some sort of trade-off will need to be instantiated. We don't know what. There's lots of very smart people coming up with very clever solutions to this problem. Side chains, for example, or perhaps we'll use another coin for day-to-day transactions, and Bitcoin will become more of a reserve currency, a way to balance or settle the balance of accounts on a daily basis, or even maybe longer time, depending on how large the Bitcoin economy gets. But it's something to understand. Usually we're all gung-ho about Bitcoin, but this is a bit of a concern and something to understand.
It's kind of we talked a little bit about BitShares X last weekend. Well, I did, but and some of the strategic advantages that they were proposing, and one of the things was that you could do a transaction in 10 seconds instead of 10 minutes, and then also their kind of dedicated proof of stake wouldn't have as much centralization as the proof of work or these big pools. So there are definitely altcoins out there that are trying to address some of the issues that obviously come up when it's getting bigger and bigger. I don't even know if they ever envisioned it was going to get this big.
Yeah. Well, I think if you go back and read Satoshi's paper, he fully expected. Well, he took into consideration that it could possibly work, and he's a very smart guy. And there are some things that he didn't foresee. Of course, how can you foresee? I mean, it's a brand new world. Yeah, you make a good point. BitShares X, that's an alternate currency, something like Bitcoin but different, that came after Bitcoin and saw what happens with Bitcoin and what happens with centralization, and is one solution to some of the problems that we've seen already. And there's hundreds of altcoins. All of them are trying to be better than Bitcoin, and it's really a meritocracy at this point. We should get the best result at some point. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. That takes us into the altcoin part of the discussion, and I'm glad you brought up BitShares X because, well, last week, this right here is actually, this is a 7-day graph, and this is where we were before, and now 7 days later we're down, I guess. No, that's the 24-hour figure, but we're down some percentage over last week. And I just wanted to, that's not to repudiate BitShares X. Obviously, it's still the 4th largest altcoin in terms of market capitalization. So it's not dead yet.
Well,
Or maybe it won't be, but
I also want to point out that right when that meeting happened,
that was the
when
peak.
Ripple got $100 million influx from the banks after they had been leapfrogged by BitShares X. I don't know exactly what that did to the market, but I'm just saying it's awful coincidental. And now Ripple is actually less than they were last week. So I don't know.
Yes, welcome to the crazy world of altcoins.
Excuse me.
Okay. And I just wanted to say a note about bubbles, because whenever an altcoin is rising, I think it was 30% up when we looked at it last week, people get on board just because it's going up. They don't really consider all of the fundamentals that make it go up. So it gets this momentum on the way up, and then when people realize that the party's over and the music stops, they begin to sell. And all those people that didn't understand why it was going up then panic and sell and watch it go back down. And this is part of human nature. This happens in all kinds of markets. And I mean, I would just suggest, my personal policy is, if I don't understand why a coin is becoming more valuable, then I either take the time to figure it out or I just sit on the sidelines. So, you know, if you're just getting on board because it's going up and you think it will continue to go up, then you're participating in a bubble. Your mileage may vary, but I've been burned a few times, and I just I could go sit in my rocking chair and watch the younger people play. Okay, so anyway, that is a little bit on the altcoin market. One of our users, Teddy, posted this on the board. This is this is another site that is tracking altcoins, and they're doing so on some other metrics besides market cap. We've been looking at this coinmarketcap.com, where they just rank it by market capitalization. These guys look like they're taking a more sophisticated approach. They've got market cap in a column, but they've created their own score, which is based on things like liquidity, developer involvement, community involvement. They've got a whole mechanism that they use to create this score, and you can see that we're not even seeing BitShares X. I think they're down below the fold. There's BitShares X at 11 based on their score of 50. There's some other things like Monero, for example. This is a coin that we looked at several weeks back. One of the coins that is not based on Bitcoin. It's a totally new new invention that's not just a fork of the old Bitcoin code. But in any case, this is an interesting way to look at the altcoin market. Thanks, Teddy, for posting that in the group. A few more notes on altcoins. Ethereum, you've only got 11 more hours to buy Ethereum. At one Bitcoin buys you 1,337 Ethereum. If you're interested in Ethereum, jump on board. I will say that lots of coins during their initial offering are valued higher than they are shortly after the initial period is over. But we will see what happens with Ethereum. 11 more hours. Get ready, because no more Ethereum on sale during the initial offering. Another thing to mention is this site, Voin.co. There's a couple guys I've been listening to on Let's Talk Bitcoin, and they're releasing a newsletter. This is something that happens in the traditional Wall Street environment, where people will create an investment newsletter. These guys have created an altcoin investment newsletter that they charge for. So if you're into that, if you want to get into the game and start trading altcoins, maybe you can take a look at these guys. They think they've got it figured out, and they'll create a newsletter where they're supposedly sharing their trades before it hits the market. So something to think about. Also, this was brought to my attention by Peter. Peter is someone who's usually here with us in Bali, but he's in South Africa at the moment.
He's online.
Is he?
Listening.
Excellent, excellent. Hello, Peter, if you can hear me. But if you're not already familiar with this website, Cryptsy is an altcoin trading platform. And you can now use Cryptsy to trade altcoins with US dollars. meaning that, you know, it used to be that Bitcoin was like the gateway drug into altcoins, alternative currencies. And, you know, you had to get your hands on some Bitcoin, and then you could participate in all kinds of other exchanges where you could trade Bitcoin for other coins. But Cryptsy is now allowing you to trade in other coins like Darkcoin and Dogecoin and Litecoin, and withdraw your USD at the moment you want to get out. So you don't have to go through that stage of Bitcoin. So it's interesting. It really makes altcoins more viable to be traded, and I don't know, maybe makes it a more vibrant market, but we'll see what happens with that.
You're aware that's like 3 months old, right?
Yeah. Although I didn't know about it. Yeah. I didn't know that you could withdraw US dollars from Cryptsy. So it's a little bit old, but Peter told me about it today. I thought we'd throw it up there. All right.
You're saying they're not reputable?
I think it's old news. Well, Rick's used to getting the latest news from Bitcoins in Bali, so.
Is it actually 3 months old?
Yeah.
Because it says June 30th on there.
June, July.
2 months old, sorry. Bad math.
Anyway, I didn't know about it. You know, it's very difficult these days to stay on top of everything that's going on. In fact, I'd love help with that. And anyway, this is that's why we get together. And yeah, nobody can digest everything. So anyway, so that's all I have on altcoins. Any additions on altcoins before we wrap up this segment on alt currencies and altcoins? All right.
Oh, I would like to just say one thing about the algorithm, the one that was ranking where Dogecoin was second and stuff like that.
Yeah. Let me pull that up here.
I wanted to look at that. If you look at it closely, like Dogecoin is based on Reddit. You know, like that's like the whole point of the coin. So
you're saying the community figure might be dragging up this this score that they're.
Yeah, it definitely is. And as far as something like BitShares X, it's only a month old. So the developer, you know, adoption rate or whatever is a lot lower than something else that's been around longer, and the liquidity is also, you know, lower because it's not on as many exchanges. I'm not saying that shouldn't be taken into account. I'm just saying that there are market cap still, I think, is the most important thing. It's like, where are people actually putting their money? And you know, Dogecoin hasn't moved barely at all in the last few weeks.
Can we flip back over to CoinGecko for a second?
Sure.
Your point's well taken, but at the same time, check out about the last 3 columns. The Reddit activity, yeah, okay, it's high on Dogecoin, but compare the Facebook activity on Dogecoin to Bitcoin. Compare the Twitter activity on Dogecoin to Bitcoin. They're both significantly higher, so it's not purely a Reddit factor.
Oh, yeah, and but I kind of have a marketer's mentality on that you know, it's just social media in general.
You know, in the last 24 hours since we launched, Dogecoin volume on our site's double the Bitcoin volume.
Wow.
Which surprised the hell out of me.
You mean
on the Coin Academy? People looking at, you know, selecting courses to take. The Dogecoin volume is double the Bitcoin.
Oh, like more people were interested in learning about it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. All right, so maybe I'm too quick to judge the value of Dogecoin, but
I think your economic argument's totally valid. It's just, you know, there does seem to be quite a bit of interest in the market right now for some reason.
You're right.
Well, you know, the Doge folks might just be poorer. They're
got more time on their hands.
They're talking a lot more, but they have less money to dump into alternative currencies. So who knows? That's pure speculation. But with that, I'll wrap up the altcoin discussion. And next up is Coin Academy. I know that it's come up a few times. We're really happy to see this thing taking off. I've watched some of the original course material that's here. It's excellent, and well, you guys just officially launched, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the launch was a bit of a comedy of errors. We miscalculated the time difference from where the server was based, where we had timed the launch of the press release. So literally, we found out about the launch from you, and you walked over to the table and said, hey man, you guys are on the front page of Reddit. And I'm like, no! And so there was like scramble, trying to get everything that was supposed to be up before that press release went out up.
Wow.
But it worked out really well. Like I said, we did 500 unique visitors yesterday. Oddly, exactly 500 unique visitors. And we did just shy of 1,400 page views, and we enrolled 50 people yesterday, almost 50 people.
That's great.
So yeah, we were blown away by it. You know, we're hoping now we get some more mainstream media so we can sustain that. Because I mean, hey, that's the question. Got a great punt. Now let's see what we can do with it afterwards. But thanks a lot for the support. I appreciate it.
Yeah. This is something that I think is really important in the Bitcoin community. Obviously, you're covering more than Bitcoin as well. Just blocking and tackling, educating people about how this stuff works. You know, there's lots of people doing lots of things, but I have yet to see something put together as well as this. So, well done. Excellent stuff.
Yeah, if anybody has any feedback, if you watch a video, you find a mistake, you find a problem, please just let me know, because you know, we certainly don't claim these are perfect, nor that we know everything about all these topics. So, you know, please, feedback would be very valuable to us.
Yeah. Well, you'll get the best feedback here in Ubud, because this is the most vibrant Bitcoin community.
So far, that's true.
All right, and as evidence of that, you can see that we are getting press all over the planet. This is going on right now. Burning Man. How many people have heard about Burning Man? Yeah, okay. Did you know that there's a Bitcoin camp at Burning Man this year? That maybe you guys recognize this guy. He does the Mad Bitcoins. He reads the news with a really kind of old school announcer voice. It's something to behold. He wears this hat all the time. But anyway, you can see that they're talking a lot about Bitcoin, and of course, overheard at the camp is at our Bitcoin meetup in Bali. ... You might recognize this name, Manu Bryson Haynes. He apparently is at Burning Man, kind of sharing some of his ideas with the folks on the playa. That's what they call the stretch of desert where they set up camp. I think there's about 50,000 people there. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. We've got some far-flung press coverage in California. Of course, we've also got press coverage in Korean press. You can see there's the guys behind Coin Academy. And there's the Bitcoin filter. You guys might recognize that that doppelganger going on right there. Anyway, we had what was her name, Vinny? Eugene Do here, and she wrote a beautiful article in Korean. Thanks for that, Sujin. All right.
If I may add, so this is basically the startup websites where in Korea they have startup meeting places, but it's like a hub, but it's not a hub. So what she's doing, actually, she's traveling around the world, what other countries does. So she happened to come here, and she got to write about hub in Ubud, and then the other one in Sanur, and then she's going to go back to Australia and write about, you know, what's going on over there. And then she happens to write about Bitcoin, which is amazing.
Yes, she was here, and she did a fantastic job covering the scene here. You can see there's the guest house that accepts Bitcoin, the taxi service. There's even a picture of Vinny down here. Look at that. All right. Anyway, yes, we're getting international press coverage from our little operation here in Ubud. Check this out, guys. In other news, maybe you guys might recognize Roberto. I think he's still in Italy, but on the streets of Italy, he came across somebody selling some old Indonesian banknotes. If you check that out, that is a 1 rupiah note from 1956. Not in heavy circulation any longer.
Yeah.
If you can imagine, I did the math. 1 rupiah is worth $0.000085 US dollars.
It's like 85 Satoshi.
Yeah. Usually we're not used to dealing with this many decimal places when it's not cryptocurrency, but one thing that this shows us is that paper money is going in one direction, and cryptocurrency is going in another direction. This kind of money, and this happens with all paper money, all government-issued money, inflates, and so over time, in this case, over the last 50 years, 60 years, it went, well, I don't know what it was worth then, but it's so small now that it's not a useful denomination. That's inflation for you, and it happens within one person's lifetime. So, you know, if whoever earned this 1 rupiah, if they didn't spend it, then somebody else spends it for them, the government of Indonesia, because they inflate it away and pay somebody else with the devalued currency. So I thought that's interesting. You can also find, you know, trillion-dollar Zimbabwe notes, which also illustrate the point well. And this happens, like I said, with every currency that was issued by a government and backed or not, it tends to be worthless at some point. What else do we have? Okay, now we've got the post of the week, and this is related to everything we've been talking about. I posted this. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. We were talking last week about seniorage and what it costs us as taxpayers to print the money and cast the coins that we use. Essentially, governments, when they do this, they make money because they're giving us an interest-free loan, and all the money that doesn't come back, like all of these $100 bills that are held outside of the country, 70% of U.S. $100 bills are held elsewhere. That means that the U.S. government makes money on that money through seniorage, through a mechanism that, in essence, gives the U.S. government an interest-free loan. Now that sparked a whole conversation, and this is just pure gold. If you'll excuse the pun, this is like just real in-depth analysis on this whole topic, and it brings up other topics that are related to things we were talking about earlier, right? Earlier we were talking about the 7 transaction per second limit on Bitcoin. And if you think about it, if we get to a world where we need 46,000 transactions per second, then the Bitcoin will no longer be useful for day-to-day transactions. It will be more useful as a way to settle accounts, because the price for the fees to clear a Bitcoin transaction will rise based on demand. And if the demand is 46,000 per second, then transaction fees, you can imagine, will be much more than they are today, which right now they're at about 5 or 6 cents. And if we were to get to that world where Bitcoin was in such demand that we needed that kind of throughput, then the clearing fees would be higher, and thus most of the transactions would be done with another altcoin or with side chains or with some other mechanism, and people wouldn't use the blockchain to clear day-to-day transactions anymore because it will be too expensive. That's the discussion that got kicked off here, because we got into the limit, and that's what prompted Will to do the Bitcoin number of the week. But it also got into a discussion of gold, right? And you know, gold is a reserve par excellence, right? Because you know, no matter how corrupt your government is, they cannot print gold, right? And it is divisible all the way down to the atom, right? There's an atomic number for gold, so it's highly, highly divisible. It is unimpeachable as an accounting mechanism, and it has been used to settle accounts between nations for thousands of years, right? And that's why the gold bugs, you know, when they see all of the shenanigans that are going on with the global monetary system, why they say you should get your hands on some gold, because when we have to basically reconcile all this money that we've printed with what exists in reality, then gold will be worth a hell of a lot more than it is today, right? But that begs the question, now that we've got Bitcoin, Bitcoin is like gold with a teleporter, right? Gold has to be kept in vaults. It has to be mined with big machines. And when you want to settle a balance of account, you know, let's say that you want to, you know, Germany recently asked for their gold that was being held in New York. You have to put it on a ship with a lot of security guards, and ship it from one place to the other, right, in order to settle your balance of accounts. We now have Bitcoin, which is a way to count an unimpeachable accounting mechanism for things that exist in reality, and you can settle a balance of accounts in mere seconds with all of the benefits that you used to get from gold, but without the carry costs. So there's an article posted in here, could Bitcoin replace gold for that very reason? Because we exist in a world now where we don't need the unimpeachable accounting mechanism of gold. We've got another way to count that governments can't cheat on, that they can't print away, that they can't inflate away, and that is Bitcoin. So this is really, really good stuff. I really encourage you to take a look at it. There's all kinds of stuff about what Will was talking about on the block size limit and using gold as a reserve currency. Lots of good discussion there, so check it out when you can.
Just talking about gold.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've heard, but Germany wanted to have this gold back.
Yes.
And the date when it was delivered expired, and they got only a fraction. Of course, this was not part of it.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I have an article here. It's on, I don't know how to pronounce this, Small Gold. Small Gold?
Small.
The importance of gold to nations and individuals, right? And actually, you know, Bernanke, you can play this clip when you get back home or whenever. Bernanke is famous for referring to gold as a barbarous relic. We don't need gold anymore. Gold was the cause of the Great Depression because when we were on a gold standard, we didn't have enough gold to go around, and so people didn't have enough money to spend, and that's why we entered the Great Depression back in the 30s. Take it, go see for yourself. Listen to him, but you know, Putin and others in modern public statements have referred to the importance of gold. Obviously, America holds the reserve currency, but they've been doing a lot of funny things with the U.S. currency since 2008. And countries like Russia and China are looking for ways out of the dollar system. This is the petrodollar system that basically replaced the Bretton Woods system back in 1971 when Richard Nixon said you can no longer redeem U.S. dollars for gold on the international market. This is a great article that covers the entire history. There's some good graphs in here. There's Nixon. The Nixon shock is what that's called. You can see him. He's really sweaty in that video. It's fun to watch. All kinds of good stuff. Here's the gold reserves of the Russian central bank. You can see they're ramping things up. India's collecting gold. China's collecting gold. What they say is that gold is moving from west to east. And if we ever go back to a gold standard, if there ever becomes a point in time when the dollar is repudiated, some people think that we're going to go back to gold, and that's why these governments are collecting gold, because maybe they think that day will come. But we also have Bitcoin, and Bitcoin could do the same thing. It could be America laughing last if we move to Bitcoin instead of gold in the future. This guy is obviously heavy into gold. There's gold in his URL, so I don't think he's going to be talking too much about Bitcoin. But there is a reference to Bitcoin. It's hidden. You'd miss it if you didn't squint like I did at the very bottom. Where is the bottom of this thing? Let's see. Oh, it goes on. I thought I had it highlighted.
The celebration of the commons.
Celebration
Bitcoin.
in the bridge.
But that's not what I was talking about. Let me see if I can find it. In any case, oh wait, here we go. Here it is. Gold knows no political instability, conducts no reckless monetary or fiscal policy, doesn't default or threaten to default on its obligations, doesn't rely on electricity or a network to retain its value. That is the slam on Bitcoin. I thought it was pretty neat to see it in the conclusion, but he didn't name it by name. Anyway.
It does rely on fossil fuels.
What does?
Gold.
It does. Well, so does Bitcoin, though. All those computers those computer fans trying to keep chips cold or cool.
Gold doesn't. I mean, it just can't be transported. I mean, if fossil fuels are eliminated, or you can't actually move it physically, then you can physically carry it. So physically present.
Not across countries.
It takes energy to get out of the ground.
No, I know, but what's already out?
Yes.
It becomes essentially, this is our supply. We can't mine anymore. Here it is.
Right.
Move it, put it in your backpack.
Yep. Yes. One thing that's interesting, we're talking right now about comparing gold to Bitcoin as the world's reserve currency, right? The way for governments to settle their balance of accounts. But another thing that gold cannot do is self-report on its existence or its amount. We always know exactly how many Bitcoins exist. And that's not true of gold. Actually, there's a big question mark on exactly how much gold China owns at the moment. We know that they've been hoarding it, but China's a big company, or big country. Freudian slip. we know that they mine it within their borders, and there's even been some reports of them quote smuggling gold in from other countries to obfuscate the idea that they're hoarding it or that they're collecting it. So the other interesting thing is supposedly the U.S. has a lot of gold in Fort Knox, but like Sandy said, Germany wanted their gold. This is mentioned in that article that I threw up there just a moment ago in this one. In this article, it's in there in the history. Germany has gold basically gold in a vault in the United States. They asked for it back, and the U.S. said, "Yeah, we'll give it back to you in 7 years." So who knows if the gold is actually there? Who knows what the real situation is? Although gold is unimpeachable, if you can't print it, you also can't carry it around, which means you have to account for it on a piece of paper, and pieces of paper can be duplicated. So, anyway, with that, that's my last tab. I wanted to throw it out there if anyone had any extra things to discuss or news items or any?
Yeah.
Peter
just sent me a link. Could you open your Facebook?
Sure. Is it a new? What do I look for? Facebook?
I sent you.
You send it to me with what?
Through Facebook. Then.
Through Facebook?
That one. I think Peter also sent it to you.
There.
Yeah. So basically, he argues that it's a map where all the internet, like each country, for example, America has internet going on. The redder it gets, like let's say, quote, powerful the internet is. So that's where most likely Bitcoin will be adopted. Whereas, like, look, for my country.
I think I see that. Looks like Indonesia right there.
Well, it's not that, I know.
I was looking at the map last night.
Yeah, but this gets to my question personally. For those countries, for example, Africa, and then some area in Indonesia, if we want Bitcoin to be adopted, how would it, be possible if the internet,
Well, it is reliant on a network connection. 2 or more people have to be able to communicate in order to use Bitcoin, and the internet is, well, your mileage will vary depending on where you are. We get great internet here at Ubud, but that's not the case in other places within Indonesia. But one thing that's interesting, there are very interesting projects that use feature phones to use SMS to trade Bitcoin. And this is something that's being done in Africa. There are working systems here in Indonesia where even if you don't have an internet connection, if you've got a very inexpensive feature phone that has SMS capabilities, you can send and receive Bitcoin. And that's a possibility. That could possibly bridge the gap from now until the ubiquity, a map where everyone has internet connectivity from now until then.
Similarly, the mycelium wallet lets you trade locally with other people that are mycelium on their phone.
Right, without a network connection?
Yeah, just bump.
Just be next to one another? That's cool. Mycelium. Mycelium is a cool thing.
Speaking of wallets,
yeah.
I've been doing a lot of wallet research, and I recently found one that I thought was sort of light years ahead of everybody. I mean, the blockchain info one's really good, but there's one called, and it's a goofy name, Green Address.
Yeah.
Which rocks.
Yeah.
Really nice, and it's available on the web, in watch mode, or on your desktop, or on your mobile. Two-factor authentication, the whole bit. It's really nice.
Do you happen to know, I don't want to put you on the spot, do they have a trustless architecture where the keys are in the possession of the user?
Good Lord, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
It did get from Bitcoin, from the Bitcoin website where they list all the different wallets, it actually had one of the highest security ratings.
Excellent. So it probably does, or at least has the option. That's great. We'll check it out. Maybe we can talk about it more next week. Yeah, I think along with a vibrant environment for altcoins, there's also a vibrant environment for tools around Bitcoin, and we should take a look at all of them if we can. But it's called Green Address.
Yes.
All right, we'll check that out. Anything else, guys?
If anybody's interested in mining, I learned a lot about mining this week.
Yeah.
And came into an opportunity, so you can come and see me afterwards or whatever if you're interested in mining Bitcoin.
Okay. All right.
It's become a little bit less viable in the last year or so, but it becoming part of a pool is still a possibility.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Maybe you can post something in the group too, if there's something interesting there.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it. Great. All right. That's our time for tonight, folks. Thanks for coming. Like I said, we are here every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. in Ubud, which is in Ubud, Bali. If you're in this neck of the woods, please come join us. We're always happy for new members. And I'll just mention one more time, we get together every week for Bitcoin Filter, and once a month we are going to have this Bitcoin 101, which is really just a bootstrap to get you started, to get you a wallet with a little bit of Bitcoin in it so you can begin to participate in the Bitcoin economy. It's offered in both English and Bahasa Indonesia, which is Indonesian language. Check it out on September 13th and September 20th. And with that, we'll sign off. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time.
I've been shifting over to it all the way around. Sorry about that.